The morning started like any other day for Captain Jake Morrison. He was drinking his coffee and looking at the stars through the big window of the Liberty space station. The Earth looked beautiful below him, with white clouds moving slowly across. The blue oceans. Jake had been working in space for 10 years, but he never got tired of this view. Then everything changed. The first sign of trouble came from the radar screens. Lieutenant Amy Collins was the first to notice something strange. She was sitting at her computer when red lights started flashing everywhere. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Amy said. Her voice was shaking. "There's something huge coming." Toward us. Jake put down his coffee and walked over to Amy's screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. A massive object was moving through space toward Earth. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Much bigger. "How big is that thing?" Jake asked. "The computer says it's about 50 miles long and 20 miles wide," Amy replied. "But that can't be right. Nothing that big should be able to move through space like that." Jake grabbed the radio. "Earth Control, this is Liberty Station. We have a problem up here. A big problem." The voice that came back belonged to Admiral Lisa Parker. She was in charge of all Earth's space defenses. "We see it too, Jake. We've been tracking it for the last hour. It just appeared out of nowhere." As they watched, the huge ship slowed down and stopped about 1,000,000 miles from Earth. It was dark gray and covered with strange lights that blinked in patterns no human could understand. The ship looked like it was made of metal, but not any metal that existed on Earth. "It's not from Earth," Jake said quietly. "It's not from anywhere in our solar system." Admiral Parker's voice came through the radio again. "Jake, we're getting reports from all over the world. People are seeing this thing in the sky. The news stations are going crazy." Then something even more frightening happened. Without any warning, 3 bright beams of light shot out from the alien ship. The beams were so bright that Jake had to close his eyes. When he opened them again, 3 of Earth's military satellites were gone. Just gone. There was nothing left but tiny pieces of metal floating in space. "Did you see that?" Amy whispered. "They destroyed our satellites like they were nothing." Jake nodded. The aliens had just shown Earth exactly how powerful they were. Those satellites had cost billions of dollars to build. The aliens had destroyed them in 3 seconds. The radio crackled to life again. But this time, the voice was different. It was not human. The voice was deep and cold, like metal scraping against stone. "Humans of Earth," the alien voice said. "I am Supreme Commander Vextar of the Zeltharian Empire. Your planet is now under our control." Jake felt his heart beating fast. This was really happening. Earth was being contacted by aliens, and they were not friendly. "We have come to offer you a choice," the alien continued. "You have exactly 72 hours to surrender your planet to us. You will give us all your resources. You will work for us. You will obey us in all things." Amy grabbed Jake's arm. "This is insane," she whispered. "They're demanding that we become their slaves." The alien voice kept talking. "If you refuse our generous offer, we will destroy your planet completely. We have done this 19 times before. 19 other species chose to fight us instead of serving us. Those species no longer exist." Jake stared at the massive ship floating in space. He thought about his wife and 2 children back on Earth. He thought about all the people he knew and loved. 7 billion humans were being threatened by these aliens. "We are not cruel," the alien said. "We are giving you time to make the right choice. 72 hours. Use this time wisely. Think about your families. Think about your children. Think about whether your pride is worth more than their lives." The alien ship began broadcasting images directly to every television, computer, and phone on Earth. The images showed other planets that had been destroyed. Beautiful worlds that were now nothing but rocks and dust floating in space. Cities that had been turned to glass. Oceans that had been boiled away. These worlds chose to fight us, the alien explained. This is what happens to species that think they can resist the Zeltharian Empire. We have technology that is thousands of years ahead of yours. We have weapons that can crack planets in half. We have ships that can travel faster than light. Jake watched the terrible images. He saw the remains of civilizations that had once been proud and strong. Now they were nothing but empty space and dead rocks. Your weapons cannot hurt us, the alien continued. Your ships cannot catch us. Your science cannot match ours. You are insects compared to us, but we are merciful insects. We will let you live if you serve us. The broadcast ended. The alien ship went quiet. Jake and Amy stood in silence, staring at the massive vessel that held the fate of Earth in its hands. What do we do now? Amy asked. Jake looked at Earth spinning slowly below them. 7 billion people were down there, living their lives, not knowing that everything had just changed. Forever. In 72 hours, humanity would either become slaves or be destroyed completely. We contact Earth Command, Jake said. We tell them what we saw. And then we pray that someone smarter than us can figure out how to save our planet. But deep down, Jake knew the truth. How could humans fight beings that could destroy planets? How could they resist an empire that had conquered 19 other worlds? The countdown had begun. 72 hours until humanity faced its greatest test. President Alexander Cole had been in office for 3 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He sat in the Oval Office, staring at the reports from space. The alien ship was real. The threat was real. And he had less than 60 hours to decide the fate of humanity. Mr. President, said his chief of staff, the world leaders are ready for the emergency video conference. Alexander nodded and walked to the secure communications room. On the screen, he could see the faces of leaders from every major country on Earth. They all looked scared. Some looked angry. All of them were waiting for him to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander began, we all know why we're here. The aliens have given us 3 days to surrender or be destroyed. I need to know what each of your countries is. Thinking, the Prime Minister of Britain spoke first. Mr. President, we've run computer simulations. Our military experts say we have no chance against their technology. 0 chance. The President of Russia shook his head. We cannot simply give up. If we surrender, we become slaves forever. Our children will never know freedom. But if we fight, our children will be dead, said the Prime Minister of Canada. Dead children don't need freedom. The argument went on for hours. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight no matter what. A few suggested trying to negotiate with the aliens. Meanwhile, Dr. Amanda Wright was in her laboratory, studying the alien communications. Amanda was the smartest person most people had ever met. She had spent her life studying the possibility of alien life. Now that aliens were here, she was the only human who might understand them. The signal patterns are complex, Amanda told her assistant, Dr. Peter. Kim, these aliens don't just want our resources. There's something else. Amanda had been analyzing the alien broadcasts for 12 hours straight. She had found something disturbing in the way the aliens spoke about their previous conquests. Look at this, Amanda said, pointing to her computer screen. When they talk about the species they've conquered, they use words that suggest emotional satisfaction. They're not just taking resources. They're enjoying the process of conquest. Doctor, Kim looked at the data. You think they get pleasure from making others suffer? I think it's worse than that, Amanda replied. I think they need it. I think they feed on the fear and despair of the species they conquer. Slavery isn't just economic for them. It's food. In another part of the city, General Marcus Stone was meeting with his military commanders. Marcus was a tough man who had fought in 3 wars. He had never lost a battle, but he had never faced anything like this. "Sir," said Colonel Janet Murphy, "we've analyzed their weapons. The energy beams that destroyed our satellites were more powerful than anything we've ever seen. One shot from their main guns could level an entire city. What about nuclear weapons?" Marcus asked. "They might damage their smaller ships," Colonel Murphy replied. "But their main ship has some kind of energy shield. Our missiles would probably bounce off it like tennis balls." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see people going about their normal lives. They were shopping, driving cars, walking their dogs. They had no idea that their world was about to end. "We have to try something," Marcus said. "Even if we can't win, we can't just give up without a fight." Across the world, ordinary people were having the same conversation. The alien ultimatum had been broadcast to every person on Earth. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew they had to choose between slavery and death. In a small town in Kansas, teacher Mary Johnson was talking to her students. "Miss Johnson," asked 8-year-old Billy Roberts, "are the aliens really going to hurt us?" Mary looked at the scared faces of her students. These children were supposed to learn about math and science and history. Instead, they were learning that monsters from space wanted to destroy their world. "I don't know, Billy," Mary said honestly, "but I know that good people will do everything they can to protect you." In Detroit, construction worker Ben Taylor was talking to his neighbors. "We can't just sit here and wait," Ben said. "If those things come down here, we need to be ready to fight." "Fight with what?" asked his neighbor, Carol Davis. "They have space guns. We have hammers and screwdrivers." "Then we'll use hammers and screwdrivers," Ben replied. "At least we'll go down fighting." Back in Washington, President Cole was preparing to address the nation. He had made his decision. He walked to the podium and looked into the camera. He knew that billions of people around the world were watching. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," he began, "we face the greatest challenge in human history. We have been given a choice between slavery and death. But I believe there is a third option. We can choose to fight." Some people watching TV cheered. Others cried. Many just stared at the screen. In shock. "I will not lie to you," the president continued. "The aliens are more powerful than us. They have better weapons and better technology. They have destroyed other worlds. But they have never faced humanity." Dr. Wright was watching the speech from her laboratory. She had spent the last day studying every piece of information about the aliens. She had an idea, but it was dangerous and might not work. "They think we're weak," Dr. Wright said to herself. "They think we'll surrender like the others. But humans are different. We don't give up. We never give up." General Stone was also watching the speech. He had already begun moving military forces into position. He knew they couldn't win a traditional battle, but maybe they could make the aliens pay a price for their victory. "Sir," said Colonel Murphy, "what are your orders?" "Prepare for war," General Stone replied. "If we're going to lose, we're going to lose fighting." As the president finished his speech, something unexpected happened. People around the world began responding to the alien threat in ways no one had predicted. Instead of panic, there was determination. Instead of fear, there was anger. A farmer in Iowa posted a video message to the aliens. "You want our planet? Come and take it." A mother in London sent a message. "You threaten our children? You picked the wrong species." A teenager in Tokyo uploaded a video. "We've been waiting our whole lives for something worth fighting for. Thanks for giving us a reason." The aliens received thousands of these messages. They were confused. Other species had begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. Humans were responding with defiance, and something the aliens had never encountered before from their victims. Laughter. Some humans were making jokes about the aliens. Others were sending them insulting messages. A few were even making fun of their appearance and their threats. Supreme Commander Vextar reviewed the human responses with growing confusion. His advisors had studied 19 other species. All of them had followed predictable patterns when faced with conquest. But humans were different. They're not acting like the others, Vextar told his second-in-command. They should be afraid. They should be begging us not to destroy them. Perhaps they don't understand the situation, his advisor suggested. They understand, Vextar replied. They're just not reacting the way they should. The countdown continued. 55 hours until the deadline. 55 hours until humanity would either surrender or face destruction. But something was changing on Earth. People were not giving up. They were getting ready to fight, even though they knew they would probably lose. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had assumed that humans were like every other species they had conquered. They were about to learn the humans were different, very different. 24 hours remained until the alien deadline. The world had changed completely in just 2 days. People were not acting the way anyone expected. Instead of hiding in their homes, they were doing something that surprised even themselves. They were fighting back. In Detroit, Ben Taylor had become the leader of his neighborhood without even trying. People just started coming to him for answers. Ben was a simple man who built things with his hands, but he had something that people needed right now. He had courage. Listen up, everyone, Ben said to the crowd of neighbors gathered in the street. Those aliens think we're going to roll over and play dead. They think we're weak, but they don't know us very well. Mrs. Patterson from down the street raised her hand. Ben, what can we do? We're just normal people. We don't have weapons or training. Ben smiled. Ma'am, we've got something better than weapons. We've got heart, and we've got each other. Ben led his neighbors to the construction site where he worked. We're going to build things, he announced. Big things. Things that will make those aliens think twice about landing in our neighborhood. The construction workers had left behind bulldozers, cranes, and tons of steel beams. Ben's neighbors might not be soldiers, but they knew how to work with their hands. They started building barriers, traps, and weapons out of construction materials. My grandfather fought in World War II, said Tom Walker, a young man who worked at the gas station. He always said that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they have to. Meanwhile, at the university, Dr. Rachel Green was working on something that might change everything. Rachel was a quantum physicist, one of the smartest people in the world. She had been studying the alien weapons, trying to understand how they worked. The energy signature is unlike anything we've ever seen, Rachel explained to her research team. But I think I know what they're using. It's some kind of quantum entanglement beam. Her assistant, Dr. Mike Chun, looked confused. What does that mean for us? It means their weapons might have a weakness, Rachel said. If we can disrupt the quantum field at the right frequency, we might be able to reflect their own energy back at them. Rachel had been working for 18 hours straight, drinking coffee and eating nothing but potato chips. Her hair was messy and her clothes were wrinkled, but her eyes were bright with excitement. It's theoretical, she admitted. We've never built anything like this before. But if it works, we might actually be able to hurt them. In Kansas, teacher Mary Johnson was doing something that would change the course of history. She was sitting in her empty classroom, talking to a video camera. Her students had all gone home, but Mary had something to say to the aliens. Hello, Mary said to the camera. My name is Mary Johnson. I'm a teacher from Kansas. I teach 3rd grade. That means I work with 8-year-old children every day. Mary paused and looked directly into the camera. I want to tell you something about humans. We don't like bullies. We've never liked bullies, and we don't negotiate with terrorists. She uploaded the video to the internet with a simple message. Send this to the aliens. Within hours, Mary's video had been viewed by millions of people. But more importantly, it had been automatically transmitted to the alien ship along with thousands of other messages. You think you can scare us into giving up, Mary continued in her video. You think we'll choose slavery over death. But you don't understand humans very well. We've been fighting bullies for thousands of years. We fought kings who said we had to obey them. We fought dictators who said we had to serve them. We fought anyone who tried to take away our freedom. Mary's video inspired others. Soon, people all over the world were making their own videos and sending them to the aliens. The messages were all different, but they had one thing in common. They were not afraid. A farmer from Iowa made a video standing in his cornfield. You want my land? You want my crops? Come and take them. But bring a lunch, because it's going to be a long day. A mother from London made a video with her 3 children. You threaten our kids? You made a big mistake. There's nothing more dangerous than a mother protecting her children. A teenager from Brazil made a video that got millions of views. Hey, aliens, you know what we do to bullies at our school? We stand up to them. All of us. Together. The aliens were receiving thousands of these messages. Supreme Commander Vexstar was becoming more confused and angry with each one. Other species had sent messages begging for mercy or trying to negotiate. Humans were sending messages that were different. Some humans were making jokes. Others were being sarcastic. A few were even making fun of the aliens' appearance and their threats. One message from a comedian in New York said, "So you've conquered 19 other species? That's cute. We've conquered this entire planet, and we did it while fighting each other the whole time. Good luck with that." Another message from a chef in France said, "You want to enslave us? Do you know how to cook? Because if you don't, you're going to starve." We're not very good at taking orders, but we're excellent at giving them. Dr. Amanda Wright was analyzing all of these messages along with the alien responses. She had discovered something important. The aliens were not just confused by the human responses. They were disturbed by them. They're used to fear, Amanda explained to her team. Their whole empire is built on making other species afraid, but humans aren't responding with fear. We're responding with anger, humor, and defiance. Amanda had been studying the alien psychological profile. I think they need their victims to be afraid. It's not just about conquest. It's about domination. They feed on the psychological submission of other species. So what happens if we don't submit? Asked Dr. Kim. I think we're about to find out, Amanda replied. The alien ship was receiving more than just video messages. Humans were sending them everything. Music, movies, books, photographs, recipes, and even cat videos. The aliens' communication systems were being flooded with human culture. A group of college students had organized a massive effort to send the aliens every song ever recorded. If we're going to die, said student leader Katie Adams, let's at least confuse them first. The aliens were trying to understand what they were receiving. They had expected military communications, government messages, or pleas for mercy. Instead, they were getting human art, entertainment, and daily life. One message that particularly confused them came from a mechanic in Texas named Tony Rodriguez. Tony had made a very simple video. He stood in front of his garage, holding a wrench, and said just 4 words, "Come and take it." The aliens analyzed this message for hours. They couldn't understand why a human would challenge them with such confidence. Tony was just a man who fixed cars. He had no weapons, no military training, and no chance of victory. Yet he was daring them to fight Dot as the hours passed. Something unexpected was happening on Earth. People were not panicking. Instead, they were coming together in ways that surprised everyone. Neighbors who had never spoken to each other were working side by side. People with different religions and political beliefs were joining forces. Rich and poor, young and old, were all united by one simple idea. They would not surrender Dot in cities around the world. People were building defenses, making weapons, and preparing for battle. They knew they would probably lose, but they were going to fight anyway. The aliens had made a serious mistake. They had assumed that humans would behave like every other species they had conquered. They had expected fear, submission, and desperation. Instead, they had awakened something in humanity that they had never encountered before. They had united the human race against a common enemy. With 24 hours left until the deadline, humans were not begging for mercy. They were not trying to negotiate. They were not surrendering. They were getting ready for war. The aliens were about to learn that some species cannot be conquered. Some species will fight even when they know they cannot win. Some species would rather die free than live as slaves. Humanity was one of those species. The countdown continued, but now it was not just counting down to humanity's surrender. It was counting down to something the aliens had never experienced. Before Dot, it was counting down to the day when they would face a species that simply refused to give up. Supreme Commander Vexstar stood in the control room of his massive ship, staring at the data screens in complete confusion. In his 300 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were not behaving like any species he had ever conquered. "Commander," said his second-in-command, a tall alien named Kethmal, "we have received over 2 million messages from the humans in the last 12 hours. Vexstar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Show me the latest communications." The screen filled with videos from Earth. Vexstar watched as a human child, no more than 6 years old, stood in front of a camera and said, "My daddy says you're bullies. We don't like bullies. Go away." Another video showed an elderly human woman knitting in her chair. "I've lived through 2 wars, the Great Depression, and 40 years of marriage to my husband Harold," she said calmly. "You aliens don't scare me. I've seen worse." Vexstar felt something he had never experienced before. He was beginning to doubt himself. These humans ... They're not acting like the others. Where is their fear? Where is their desperation? Kethmal pulled up another set of data. "Commander, the humans are also sending us their entertainment. Music, movies, something called cat videos, and thousands of images of their food." Their food? Vexstar was becoming more confused. Why would they send us pictures of their food? "We don't know, sir. But look at this message that came with them." The screen showed a video of a human chef in a white hat. "Hey, aliens," the chef said cheerfully, "if you're going to be our new overlords, you need to learn how to eat properly. Here's how to make a proper pizza. Step 1. Don't be a jerk to your neighbors." Vexstar's advisors were equally confused. They had spent centuries developing psychological warfare techniques that had worked on 19 different species. But humans were responding to their threats with humor, defiance, and something the aliens had never encountered before: complete lack of respect. "Sir," said another officer, "perhaps we should make an example of them. Show them what happens when species resist us." Vexstar thought about this. Yes, that was what they always did. They would destroy a city to show their power. The humans would see the destruction and immediately surrender. It had worked 19 times before. "Target their largest city," Vexstar ordered. "We will destroy it completely. That will show them the price of defiance." The aliens chose New York City as their target. It was big, famous, and full of people. Destroying it would send a clear message to the rest of humanity. But Dr. Rachel Green, and her team had been working around the clock on their quantum disruption device. They had built it using parts from the university's physics lab, along with some help from the military. "The theory is sound," Rachel explained to General Stone over the phone. "If their weapons use quantum entanglement, we can reflect the energy back at them. But we only get one shot at this." "How sure are you that it will work?" the general asked. "About 50%, Rachel admitted. "But it's better than 0%. The device was the size of a small building and looked like a giant satellite dish covered in wires and computers. Rachel's team had placed it on top of the tallest building in New York City. If the aliens attacked, they would be ready. Kevin Chong, a brilliant engineer who had helped build the device, was standing next to Rachel as they watched the alien ship through telescopes. "Do you really think this will work?" Kevin asked. "I think we're about to find out," Rachel replied. The alien ship began to glow with a strange light. Energy was building up in their main weapon. The same weapon that had destroyed 3 satellites in 3 seconds was now pointed at New York City. "Everyone in position," Rachel said into her radio. "This is it. The aliens fired their planet-killing beam at New York City. The beam was so bright, it lit up the entire sky. It was powerful enough to turn the city into dust in seconds. But when the beam hit Rachel's quantum disruption device, something amazing happened. The energy was caught, twisted, and sent back toward the alien ship at twice the speed. The reflected beam struck one of the alien escort ships. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from space. For the first time in Zeltharian history, a primitive species had destroyed one of their ships. The control room of the alien mothership went completely silent. Every alien officer stared at the screens in shock. One of their escort ships was gone, completely destroyed by humans. "That's impossible," Vexstar whispered. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. They can't hurt us." But the burning wreckage of their ship proved otherwise. The humans had not only survived the attack, they had fought back successfully. Kethmol was studying the sensor data. "Commander, they somehow reversed our quantum beam. They used our own weapon against us." Vexstar felt anger rising in his chest. How dare these primitive creatures destroy his ship? How dare they resist the mighty Zeltharian Empire? "Prepare for full invasion," he ordered. "We will teach these humans what happens when they defy us." But as the alien fleet prepared to attack Earth, something else was happening. The humans were celebrating. The news of the alien ship's destruction spread around the world in minutes. People were cheering in the streets. They were dancing, singing, and crying with joy. "We did it," shouted Ben Taylor in Detroit. "We actually hurt them." "If we can destroy one ship, we can destroy more," said Tony Rodriguez in Texas. But the celebration was short-lived. The alien mothership was still there, and it was much bigger than the escort ship they had destroyed. The aliens were angry now, and they were preparing for war. Dr. Amanda Wright was analyzing the alien communications. The aliens were no longer sending polite ultimatums. They were sending threats, curses, and promises of complete destruction. "They're losing their composure," Amanda reported to President Cole. "They're not used to being challenged. Their whole empire is built on the idea that they're unbeatable." "What does that mean for us?" the president asked. "It means they're going to try to destroy us completely," Amanda replied. "But it also means they're making mistakes. Angry people make bad decisions." The alien fleet began moving toward Earth. Hundreds of ships, each one bigger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever seen. They were coming to finish what they had started, but something had changed on Earth. The humans were no longer afraid. They had proven that the aliens could be hurt. They had shown that the mighty Zeltharian Empire was not invincible. General Stone was coordinating the defense of Earth. "We can't match their firepower," he told his officers. But we can be unpredictable. We can be creative. We can be human. The aliens were used to fighting species that used conventional military tactics. They were not used to fighting species that made their own rules. As the alien fleet approached Earth, they received one final message from the humans. It was from Mary Johnson, the teacher from Kansas. "You had your chance," Mary said into the camera. "We offered you the opportunity to leave peacefully. You chose to attack us instead. Now you're going to learn why that was a mistake." Mary paused and looked directly into the camera. "You see, you made one big error in your calculations. You assumed we were like the other species you conquered. You assumed we would be afraid. You assumed we would surrender." She smiled. "You were wrong. We're not afraid of you. We're not going to surrender. And we're definitely not going to negotiate with terrorists." The message ended with Mary holding up a sign that read, "Come and take it." The aliens had underestimated humanity. They had thought humans were weak, fearful, and easy to conquer. They had been wrong about everything. Now they were about to face a species that had spent its entire history fighting against impossible odds. A species that had never learned how to surrender. A species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The Zeltharian Empire was about to meet its match. The war for Earth was about to begin, and the aliens were going to learn that some fights are not worth starting, because some species will fight back no matter what the odds. And humanity was definitely one of those species. The alien fleet descended on Earth like a swarm of deadly insects. Hundreds of ships filled the sky, each one bristling with weapons that could level entire cities. Supreme Commander Vextar was furious about the loss of his escort ship. He wanted to make humanity pay for their defiance. "Begin the assault," Vextar ordered. "Show these primitives what happens when they resist the Zeltharian Empire." But as the alien ships approached Earth, they discovered something unexpected. The planet looked almost empty. The major cities that should have been filled with millions of people appeared to be deserted. "Where are they?" asked Kethmo, studying the sensor readings. "The humans should be cowering in their cities, waiting for us to save them from destruction." What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had spent the last 3 days preparing for this moment. While the aliens were confused by human videos and messages, the humans had been working on the largest evacuation in their history. Ben Taylor and his construction crew had been busy. They had used every bulldozer, excavator, and tunnel boring machine they could find. Working with volunteers from all over Detroit, they had expanded the city's old subway tunnels into a massive underground network. "Keep moving, everyone," Ben shouted as thousands of people filed into the tunnels. "We've got room for everyone down here." The same thing was happening in cities around the world. London's tube system had been expanded overnight. Tokyo's subway had been turned into an underground city. New York's sewers had been converted into a network of safe houses. Dr. Amanda Wright had coordinated the evacuation using her knowledge of alien psychology. "They expect us to be sitting in our cities, waiting to be bombed," she explained to the evacuation coordinators. "If we're not where they expect us to be, they'll be confused and angry." Above ground, the cities looked empty. But below ground, millions of people were safe in tunnels, basements, and underground shelters that had been built in just 3 days. The aliens began their bombing runs, expecting to see humans fleeing in terror. Instead, they saw empty streets and buildings. Their psychological warfare was useless against an enemy that wasn't there to be terrorized. "This is impossible," Vextar growled. "Where are they hiding?" But the humans weren't just hiding. They were fighting back in ways the aliens had never seen before. Dr. Rachel Green had built 12 more quantum disruption devices in the last 3 days. They were hidden on rooftops, in parks, and on mountaintops around the world. Each one was operated by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive the battle. "Remember," Rachel told her team over the radio, "wait until they're directly overhead. We get one shot at this." A first alien attack squadron came in low over Los Angeles. As they prepared to destroy the city, 3 quantum disruption devices activated simultaneously. The aliens' own weapons were turned against them, and 5 more ships exploded in the sky. "Impossible!" Vexstar screamed as he watched 5 more of the ships burn and fall from the sky. How are they doing this? But the humans weren't done. Captain Jake Morrison had left the Liberty space station and was now leading a squadron of modified fighter jets. The jets had been equipped with Dr. Green's quantum weapons, but they were still no match for alien technology in a fair fight. That's why Jake had no intention of fighting fair. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said to his pilots. Over the radio. "We can't outgun them, we can't outrun them, and we can't outfly them. But we can outcrazy them." Pilot Sarah Martinez was flying next to Jake in her modified F-22. "What's the plan, Captain?" "We're going to do something so stupid that their computers won't be able to predict it," Jake replied. "We're going to ram them." The alien ships had powerful shields that could stop missiles and energy weapons, but they had never faced pilots who were willing to crash their own ships into enemy vessels. "You heard the man," Sarah said to the other pilots. "Let's show these aliens what crazy looks like." Jake's squadron dove straight at the alien formation. The aliens fired their weapons, but the human pilots were flying in completely random patterns. They spun, rolled, and twisted through the air. Like leaves in a hurricane, the alien computers couldn't predict where the human ships would go because the humans themselves didn't know where they were going. They were flying on pure instinct and courage. 3 human pilots managed to crash their jets directly into alien ships. The explosions lit up the sky like fireworks. The aliens lost 3 more vessels to an attack that was so insane it shouldn't have worked, but it did work, because the aliens had never fought an enemy that was willing to sacrifice everything for victory. On the ground, the battle was just as fierce. When alien soldiers landed in the empty cities, they found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Chris Thompson had been a soldier before he became a farmer. When the aliens invaded, he became a soldier again. He led a group of fighters who emerged from hidden tunnels and basements to attack the alien landing parties. "Remember," Chris told his team, "we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We're trying to make them pay for every step they take." The humans used guerrilla tactics that the aliens had never encountered. They attacked from sewers, from rooftops, and from abandoned buildings. They used homemade bombs, stolen alien weapons, and anything else they could find. Most importantly, they used the one weapon the aliens couldn't defend against: the willingness to never give up. Tony Rodriguez had turned his auto repair shop into a weapons factory. He was building bombs out of car parts and fertilizer. "If they want to fight," Tony said, "we'll give them a fight they'll never forget." The aliens were discovering that conquering Earth was very different from conquering other worlds. Other species had fought with military formations and conventional tactics. Humans fought with creativity, desperation, and complete disregard for their own safety. But the battle was taking a terrible toll on humanity. Cities were burning, millions of people were dead, and Earth's military was being destroyed. The aliens were winning, but they were paying a price they had never paid before. Dr. Amanda Wright was in her underground laboratory, working on something that might change the course of the war. She had been studying captured alien technology and had made a shocking discovery. "Peter," she called to her assistant, "look at this biological analysis." Dr. Kim examined the data. "What am I looking at?" "Alien blood samples," Amanda replied. "I've been testing them against Earth bacteria. The results are incredible." Amanda had discovered that the aliens had no immunity to Earth's microorganisms. The bacteria that humans lived with every day were deadly to alien physiology. We don't need fancy weapons, Amanda realized. We have something better. We have germs. Amanda's team began working on biological weapons using common Earth bacteria. It wasn't a nice way to fight, but the aliens hadn't left humanity any choice. Meanwhile, Emma Davis and her team of teenage hackers had been trying to break into alien computer systems. Emma was only 17, but she was one of the best computer programmers in the world. Their security is really advanced, Emma told her team, but it's also really arrogant. They don't think we're smart enough to hack them. Emma had discovered that the aliens used a form of quantum computing that was incredibly sophisticated, but had one weakness. It couldn't process truly random data. We're going to crash their systems with chaos, Emma announced. We're going to upload every cat video on the internet directly into their main computer. It sounded ridiculous, but it worked. The alien computer systems were designed to process logical, predictable data. When Emma flooded them with random videos, memes, and digital noise, the systems began to malfunction. The aliens found themselves fighting on multiple fronts against an enemy that refused to follow any rules. Their ships were being destroyed by their own weapons. Their soldiers were being attacked by invisible enemies who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Their computers were being crashed by cat videos. Most confusing of all, the humans were not giving up. No matter how many cities the aliens destroyed, no matter how many humans they killed, the survivors kept fighting. Supreme Commander Vextar was beginning to panic. In 3 days of fighting, he had lost more ships than he had lost in the previous 50 years of conquest. This is madness, he told Kethmel. They should have surrendered by now. We've killed millions of them. We've destroyed their cities. Why are they still fighting? Kethmel had been studying human psychology. I think they don't know how to surrender, Commander. I think they would rather die than give up. Vextar stared at the battle reports. The humans were losing, but they were making the aliens pay dearly for their victory. At this rate, the Zeltharian fleet would be crippled even if they won. Send a message to the High Command, Vextar ordered. Request immediate reinforcements. These humans are unlike anything we've ever faced. But the message would take time to reach Zeltharian space. And time was something the aliens were running out of, because while they had been focused on conquering Earth, something else was happening across the galaxy. Other species that the Zeltharians had conquered were watching the battle. They were seeing humans refuse to surrender against impossible odds, and they were beginning to remember what freedom felt like. The war for Earth was becoming something much bigger. It was becoming a war for the future of the galaxy. And it had all started. B.